Up Internet, and welcome to On the Sofa Live. If you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Okay, let's get into this. We've got a lot to get through this evening. But the first story that I want to get into it's been a battle for me to decide whether or not to get into this story, because as a man, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to do this. But on the other hand, because I'm a man, and because I should use my privilege as a man to report this story, because I feel that if I don't, I'll be complicit somehow. I'll be complicit. Yeah, silence is complicity, isn't it? So, and besides, other men have used their platform to speak out about this. So, I feel that I should join. I should join them and use my platform, as small though it is, to just to speak about this. So let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. This next story is from CNN. And before I get into this, obviously, trigger warning. Massive, massive trigger warning. So if you have experienced GRAPE or SA, then maybe sit this one out and I'll see you in the next one. So, yeah, let's just get into it. This news story from CNN, it starts off with a warning. This report contains details of sexual assault. This is Peter. He lives in Poland with his wife, who is in her 40s. We're not showing you his face or his real name, but we can show you the message he sent us. What he says he is doing to his wife is a crime. I managed to record a clip once when I had my last 2 pills. My wife doesn't even know that I recorded it. Posing as a user, we found him in a private group, one of many, on the messaging app Telegram. At any hour, men from around the world gather on the ZZZ group to swap advice on drugging and then filming the sexual assault of their partners while unconscious. How much are you willing to pay to watch my wife while she sleeps? He asks. The abuse, shared via video and pictures in this group of nearly 1,000 users, was treated as a commodity. But for the survivors, including 3 who spoke with CNN for this story, the consequences are devastating. Exposing a global rape academy. In shocking group chats, men encourage one another to drug and assault their wives and swap tips on getting away with it. This story is the final part of CNN's As Equals series on gender inequality. For information about how the series was funded and more, check out our facts. The world was confronted by this form of internet-enabled abuse in 2024 during the mass rape and drugging trial of Dominique Pellicotte and 50 other men in southern France. It was on a so-called dating website in a chat room called Without Her Knowledge that Pellicotte was able to connect with dozens of other men to instigate the rapes of his then wife Giselle. While drugged unconscious by him, she was raped over 200 times by 70 men, not all of whom could be tracked down by the police. The Pellicotte case briefly shone a spotlight on this dark corner of the internet. But while Coco, the website involved, was shut down and public attention moved elsewhere, this behavior did not disappear. A month-long CNN As Equals investigation has uncovered a hidden online world where the commodification and amplification of sexual violence against women is flourishing. This is sick. It's almost unbelievable. I honestly have no words to describe how I'm feeling about this. It makes me really angry and upset as well, because I can't help thinking about the women in my life who I love, and care about. And, especially my 2 daughters. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I really worry, it makes me worried for their safety, this kind of thing happening, because this wasn't, this didn't happen in a back alley somewhere at knife point. No, these women were raped and sexually abused by men they thought they could trust, their husbands. They it makes you think that women can't even trust their husbands anymore. They can't even trust their husbands to give them a cup of tea that's not drugged. And it makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest. It's horrific. One porn site, motherless.com, is home to more than 20,000 videos of so-called sleep content uploaded by users with hundreds of thousands of views. The website, which had around 62 million visits in February alone, and those core audience is in the United States, describes itself as a moral-free file host where anything legal is hosted forever. The legality of some material posted is in serious doubt. The so-called sleep content is categorized using descriptive tags such as #passedout and #eyecheck. It beggars belief what is happening. It really beggars belief. 62 million visits. And I've already seen some comments when people have commented on this, have posted this number on X or Threads. Oh, that doesn't mean 62 million men. It just means 62 million. Oh, shut up. Shut up. If you're quibbling over whether it's 62 million men or not, then you're part of the problem. If that's your takeaway from this, then maybe sit down and shut up. Stop it. In these videos, men film themselves lifting the closed eyelids of women to show that they are sleeping or sedated, with some eye check videos surpassing 50,000 views. Inside the motherless sleep community, first reported on by German investigative journalists Isabel Beer and Isabel Stroh, members trade advice on how to drug their partners. On the chat group, which a motherless user had linked to, and where we first met Pieter, they do the same. CNN is not providing the names and doses of the specific medicines the users said they employ. User 1, been wanting to do this to my missus for ages. I can get, but honestly, shit scared of overdose. User 2, always start low. You're thinking long game, so if first time ain't enough, up the dose. One motherless user claimed to be running a business, selling and dispatching sleeping liquids to any addresses in the world. The man who said he was based in Ceuta, a tiny Spanish enclave in the North African coast, said on his Telegram account that it would cost 150 euros, approximately $175, for a bottle of the liquid that he said was tasteless and odorless. Your wife won't feel anything and won't remember anything, he said. This is sick. This is really sick. I am speechless. I can't believe that this is happening. That this is happening in the 21st century. That people are actually swapping information and tips on how to drug their wives and abuse them. Well, once they're asleep, it's sickening. It's really sickening. And I honestly don't think I can read any more of this. And quite frankly, any man who says, oh, but it's not all men, you've missed the point completely. It may not be all men, but firstly, one man abusing or sexually abusing or raping women or girls is one man too many. And secondly, how are women and girls supposed to know which men are the good ones, are the ones who aren't going to rape or sexually abuse them? So, if that's your argument, if your argument is that it's not all men, maybe sit down and shut up. That's not the point. And I think it's not the point. I want to share what Danny fucking Price had to say, because he put it really well, actually. Hang on. Danny fucking Price on Instagram said this.
All men. And any man who would usually bless a woman's ears or eyes with that not all men bullshit, well, you need to fucking check yourself. You don't retain the right to say not all men in a fucking women's comment section. And you never fucking did. Because it is up. And it has always been up. The prime ministers, the presidencies, the extinction, the climate crisis, the wage gap, the atomic bomb, every lynch mob, every war, every genocide, every fucking rape island, every rape academy. The men created it and the men fucking did.
Oops. Let's try that again. Danny fucking Price on Instagram said this.
Right, this one's for the men. And I'm going to try and keep this short and simple. But it is all men. And any man who would usually bless a woman's ears or eyes with that not all men bullshit, well, you need to fucking check yourself. You don't retain the right to say not all men in a fucking women's comment section. And you never fucking did. Because it is up. And it has always been up. The prime ministers, the presidencies, the extinction, the climate crisis, the wage gap, the atomic bomb, every lynch mob, every war, every genocide, every fucking rape island, every rape academy. The men created it and the men fucking did it. And if most of the world is fucked and men have been in charge since basically forever, then I'm sorry to say it, but it is all men. This week, CNN revealed that the website, the Rape Academy, where men would visit to upload or consume rape imagery, rape video, while sharing guides and tips so that other men could do the same to their wives, their girlfriends, their partners, their friends, or even their fucking siblings. Well, that website, which I won't fucking mention, was visited over 62 million times in the space of a month. Women are rightfully outraged. Everyone who is fucking normal should be rightfully outraged. Everyone should be fucking livid. But once again, like always, there are men in women's comment sections. Some of them are saying, well, actually, 62 million visits doesn't mean 62 million men. Like, are you fucking for real? That's your first response to a literal fucking rape academy that features thousands of men teaching thousands and if not millions of other men how to put women to sleep and fucking rape them. It's not 62 million men. That's your response. That's fucking you, yeah? It's mad how men will obsess over these fucking data rather than the point that women are being raped. It's always not all men. But never one man is too many men with you fucking dickhead. If you love fucking data so much and pointing it out, how about you find me the data where it shows which men reported this website and other men to the police? I bet you fucking won't. Also, I'd like to add that the 62 million, well, that was for February. And February was seemingly a quiet month because the number of hits for March, as in last month, that stands at 80 million. And also, I need to mention that the website in question is not the only website. I happen to take a look at Reddit, and there's more. There's lots more. And to be honest, when it comes to men trying to talk to women about the data and the figures, I don't fucking care. I don't fucking give a shit, fucking nerd. Do I need to remind you about Giselle Pellico, the woman that lived in a tiny little town in France? Yet her husband went on similar sites to that we're talking about right now, and he found local. Fucking lots of local. But you know what he didn't find? Somebody who would report him to the police. So miss me with that fucking bullshit. Because when it comes to women, they don't know that it's not all men. So they, unfortunately, have to assume that it could be any man. Because it always is a man. Anyway, this website, just like many other websites that are doing the same fucking thing, it's still up. People are still fucking visiting it right fucking now. It features tens of thousands of videos of abuse. And the people who are operating this website will face zero consequences, zero repercussions, fuck all. Nor will they be obliged to cooperate in any form of investigation because they are protected by some dogshit law that places the responsibility on the user and not the website that enables the user. So once again, men are being protected more than the women that they abuse. This is not an isolated issue. It's not even just an internet issue. This is a natural progression of abuse. I'm sorry to use the word natural because it's anything but, to be honest. But this didn't happen overnight. This happened after years of injustice. This happened after years of the internet being a fucking free-for-all. This happened after years of unregulation. This happened after years of dismissed safety measures. No safeguarding, no justice, no consequence. Without the men who are in charge doing a fucking thing about it. And that's reflected in real fucking life. It's always discourse about telling women what to wear, how they should dress, how they should travel, when they should travel, who should they fucking travel with, how to go out, how to enjoy themselves, how to mind their fucking drink, how to hold their keys while they're walking home. But it's never, hey man, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, that's right.
Stop doing that. Or mate, come on, don't talk about women like that. That's creepy. That's actually wrong. Sort yourself out. And now look, turns out that it's not just the streets, the clubs, the workplace, and it's now their homes and their beds. Turns out women simply aren't fucking safe wherever they are. Nice one, man. And I'll tell you what else. If there were more consequences for the bad men, then we wouldn't be anywhere near the global fucking shit show we're in right now. This really does affect all of us. Women are just, as they've always been, the ones that receive the fucking bad end of the fucking deal. The worst possible fucking deal. This is it. This is how it works. If it's not all men, then why is it most women? The historical historical propaganda and pop culture and bullshit by the men that came before us has set the fucking tone. And now we need to change it. We need to lie in that fucking bed. It's not enough to just be a good man. Being a good man is nothing fucking special. Not being a dickhead is nothing fucking special. We are born indebted to the mothers that carried us and nurtured us for fucking months. So at the very least, we need to give women our voices, our solidarity, and our allegiance. At the very fucking least. Because I'll be honest, if we're not actively stopping these men, if we're not going out there, holding them accountable, calling them out, physically stopping them, and dismantling the systems in which these men thrive, then we're fucking complicit. All of us. That's the fucking video.
Danny fucking Price. Right on the money, as always. Excuse me. And I think I'm going to leave the last word to a woman. Hang on. And I think I'm going to leave the last word on this issue to a woman. This is Louisa Munch.
And how misogyny has become so banal, so everyday, so mundane, so normalised, and ultimately what we can do about it. So when I say misogyny has become banal, it's because of this woman. Hannah Arendt talks about the banality of evil. That's when evil becomes so normalised in society. And this happens because you come so enmeshed within a system that you can never see outside of it. It becomes very difficult to name, very difficult to challenge, and very difficult to call out because you were inside of it. If you've ever read Kafka, it's like that, or The Matrix or whatever. We exist inside patriarchal capitalism, which basically means the fabric of our lives is made to benefit men and competition. Well, that's the story. And it's a story that constructs men's identities as the father, as the breadwinner, as the provider, as the protector, whatever. There is a birthright written into this story about men having more power than women, about men being subjects and women being objects. Women are seen as the other, the lesser in society, which means generally jobs that mainly women do in the care industry, teaching, things like that, are underpaid. Even domestic labour is obviously done as an expectation for free. And in this patriarchal construction of the male identity, which obviously oppresses men too, you even give children toys that are predator or prey, depending if they're a boy or a girl. Think about rabbits, think about dinosaurs. This repetition of the story keeps this power structure in place. As we know, the socio-economic system is failing. It no longer and doesn't benefit working class men. It doesn't benefit anyone really unless you are super rich. But because male identity is constructed within the story of capitalism and patriarchy, they have nowhere else to turn. So they turn inwards, become self-destructive, or they turn outwards and become violent and destructive to other people. They double down on a system because they still believe in it, even though it's completely failing. It's based on oppression. As Hannah Arendt talked about, all we have to do is stop repeating this story. We all know someone, yeah, that makes a misogynistic joke at the pub. All you men, I know you know somebody who talks about their wife or their girlfriend like a ball and chain. The joke is on the woman. The only way we make this kind of behaviour unacceptable is if we call this out, is if we expose a system for what it is. It starts by naming it and challenging it and saying, oh, you know, that's not fair. Because that kind of behaviour is allowing this kind of abhorrent treatment of women to be normalised. You can see the manifestations of this power system that we live in just by the way people talk to each other, in the language they use, in the behaviour that they present, to call it out the same way as you would if you made a racist joke. Misogyny needs to be made unthinkable. Remember, we can't have a democracy without informed citizens, and it's an emergency. I am not going to try and understand.
I don't think I could have put it better myself. And do give Louisa Munch Theory a follow on Instagram. She's brilliant. She knows her stuff. She's really intelligent, clever, and witty. So yeah, give her a follow on Instagram. Oh, hello to Robert X8020. Welcome. So I think that's all that needs to be said on that issue. I just felt that I needed to, to talk about it because it's a vital importance. Because the mainstream media hasn't talked about it much. They've only been talking about they've only been talking about the issue between Starmer and Mandelson. That's all they've been talking about. They haven't really. So this hasn't come up at all in the mainstream media. So I think the more of us on YouTube and other social media outlets who talk about this, the better. Anyway, let's move on to the next segment. Hang on. And talking of the Mandelson saga, if I can find it. Yes. This is from this next story is from ukfactcheck.com. Peter Mandelson failed US ambassador security vetting, but Keir Starmer's government overruled officials to push through the appointment. The article says this: the government pushed through Peter Mandelson's appointment as UK ambassador to the United States, despite him failing official security vetting. Senior security officials raised concerns and did not approve him for the role, but the Foreign Office stepped in and used rare powers to overrule the decision. This came after Keir Starmer had already publicly announced Mandelson for the position, putting pressure on officials to make it happen regardless of the outcome of the vetting process. The exact reasons behind the failed vetting have not been disclosed, but they are understood to relate to concerns about his background and past connections. Overruling security advice in this way is highly unusual and raises serious questions about political interference in appointments that are supposed to be handled independently. Critics say the move risks undermining trust in the entire vetting system, which is meant to ensure people in sensitive roles meet strict national security standards. Mandelson, a senior figure from previous Labour governments and a close ally of Starmer, has long been a powerful figure behind the scenes in British politics. The Foreign Office has defended the decision, saying ministers are allowed to make final calls in exceptional cases. The revelation is likely to spark further scrutiny over whether political loyalty is being prioritised over national security in top diplomatic appointments. This should finish Starmer. This should absolutely finish him. And many MPs from all the this should finish Starmer. This should finish Starmer for good. And indeed, many MPs from just about every political party have called for his resignation. Even some backbench and Labour MPs have called for him to stand down. It's not looking good. And I don't think this story is going to go away anytime soon. But there's more. This article is from the Canary. Number 10 seemingly admits Starmer misled Parliament. On April the 17th, we learned that Peter Mandelson had failed. Excuse me. I'll start that again. On the 17th of April, we learned that Peter Mandelson had failed his security vetting for the ambassador to the US position, as Keir Starmer told Parliament that Mandelson had actually passed vetting. This meant the PM misled Parliament. Simple, right? According to number 10, no. The line from Starmer's people was that the PM didn't know Mandelson failed his vetting, and that actually a rogue minister had obscured this truth from him. This argument seemed completely implausible, and as we covered, it failed to stand up. Now, number 10 is seemingly admitting that Starmer misled Parliament. The caveat is that they still claim he did so unknowingly. This is from Politics UK on X. New. Number 10 has appeared to admit that Keir Starmer unknowingly misled Parliament about Peter Mandelson's vetting. The Prime Minister would never knowingly mislead Parliament or the public. Yeah, right, sure. We call bullshit. Firstly, the timeline of events shows that number 10 should have been aware that Mandelson didn't pass vetting last year. This is from Saul Stanis. This is from Saul. This is from Saul Staniforth. Liz Kendall is asked about David Maddox, asking number 10 about Mandelson failing the vetting months ago. Despite the PM saying he only found out last week, Kendall refuses to comment, saying she can't speak on behalf of number 10's Director of Communications.
All right. On September the 11th last year, a journalist called David Maddox wrote to the Director of Communications at number 10, Tim Allen, saying that he'd been told by two sources that Mandelson had not cleared vetting, asking for a comment. Here's Allen's reply. Basically, he says vetting was done by the Foreign Office in a normal way. Was Allen being, as they say, economical with the truth, or did he just not know that there had been a problem with the vetting?
You will have to ask those questions to Tim Allen yourself. I'm not going to speak on behalf of him, and I don't think that's fair.
He was responding for the Prime Minister to a journalist the question, the Prime Minister is now saying he didn't know anything about this vetting.
Let me go back to what I said. All ministers were told that he had got developed vetting status. We were not told that the Foreign Office took that decision, whereas the UK security vetting advised against. We were not told that. We're just coming back to the same issue here, Trevor. And if he had known that, he wouldn't have been appointed in the first place.
That is unbelievable. %, Liz strikes again. That is unbelievable. She was in way over her head during that interview. David Maddox said this, just pointing out that I broke the story 7 months ago that Mandelson failed vetting from the security services and put it to 10 Downing Street. So the idea that Downing Street only found out on Tuesday is complete nonsense. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They want us to believe that a rogue minister and a rogue press secretary both knew, but neither told Starmer. So why didn't he ask? Why on earth didn't Starmer ask whether or not Mandelson, whose nickname, by the way, is the Prince of Darkness, why didn't he ask whether he had passed the vetting or not? Doesn't he care? This whole thing says to me that either Starmer is lying about not being told about Mandelson failing the vetting process. He's either lying or he's incompetent. Which is it? The article goes on. Secondly, the idea that Starmer would never knowingly mislead the public is nonsense. New Labour ghoul Tom Watson discovered what the public think of this claim when he posted the following. He is many things, but Keir Starmer is not a liar. And readers have added context. He got community noted. Keir Starmer has lied repeatedly. His statement that he didn't know is predated by this independent article. And Mukhtar says he lied to get elected as Labour leader, broke all 10 of his pledges. Yeah, exactly. The broken promises haven't stopped now that Starmer's in office either, as we reported. After 18 months in power, Starmer has turned his back on the mandate pledges that granted him office, while his broken promises stack up. James Wright wrote, on the pledge sheet sent to Labour members, Starmer promised raising income tax on the top 5% of earners. But in September 2023, the MP for Holborn and St Pancras walked that back, stating there would be no increase. It was a lie, and Polanski is right to point this out. He also pledged supporting the abolition of tuition fees. Instead, Labour has raised tuition fees by £285, another lie. This should reduce Starmer's mandate to tatters, and he should be recalled for another election. It's increasingly clear that words mean very little to Starmer. He also promised that he would put the Green New Deal at the heart of everything we do. And yet again, in February 2024, the Labour leader dropped a £28 billion per year commitment to green energy. And in government is propping up fossil fuel firms with £22 billion for carbon capture projects that don't even work. This is who Starmer is. So yes, Starmer absolutely would mislead the public. In fact, there are very few examples of being honest with the public. Let's hope he finally does the decent thing today and steps down. It will certainly be a first if he does. But of course, he's not going to step down. He's not going to resign. Of course he isn't. But more and more pressure is being put on him to step down. But I don't think he will. But eventually he'll have to. He better hope and pray that Labour get decent results in the May general in the he better hope and pray that Labour get decent results in the upcoming local elections on the 7th of May, because if he doesn't, that's it. He's done. He's finished. They will oust him for certain, for sure, if Labour get bad results in the local elections. That's the end of Starmer's career if that happens. It'll be over for Starmer. He may have survived this scandal, but I can't see him losing badly in the local elections in May. He may not be finished now, but he's a dead man walking. He's done. Keir Starmer is finished. He's toast. It's over. The problem is, who takes his place? Who's going to take his place as leader? But in my opinion, it doesn't matter, because Labour are finished anyway. It doesn't matter who becomes the next leader of the Labour Party, whether it's Angela Rayner or somebody or anyone else. It doesn't matter. Labour are finished. They are finished. They're done. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay. Next segment. So much to get through. There's so much news. There's so much to talk about. Let's see what's next. Right. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. This story is from the Canary. Labour calls ex-voters who've gone green anti-Semites, by Willem Moore. As we reported on the 15th of April 2026, Labour have lost half their voters since the 2024 election. Most of these have gone to the Green Party. And given that, you'd think Labour would be doing everything they could to win these people back. Instead, Housing Minister Steve Reid has suggested that many of the voters who've left Labour to join the Greens are actually anti-Semites. Didn't mean to do that. Steve Reid said this: I spoke to Huffington Post about the Green Party's anti-Semitism problem. We rooted it out of the Labour Party. Now Zach Polanski needs to do the same.
We kicked them out, and they've been able to walk into the Green Party with no one checking their backgrounds. Now,
that's a lie. People's backgrounds are checked, actually. That's just a lie, and I think he knows it's a lie.
A lot of those people are not only in the Green Party, they have been selected to stand as candidates in these local elections. And Zach Polanski hasn't got a clue who they are because he didn't bother to do the work in advance. He's been very open with that with the public. They don't have a vetting procedure that is up to scratch. They didn't bother to check these people's backgrounds.
That's a lie.
And they're now putting them up for election in a few weeks' time up and down the country. And the public have no idea that these people who they think are, soft, fluffy Green Party supporters are actually racists and anti-Semites.
So Labour have just given up on ever having a majority again, right? Because at this point, it seems like their main priority isn't fixing the country or winning elections. It's spitefully smearing anyone to the left of Tony Blair. The Labour Party, 1990 to 2029, rest in piss. As we reported in September 2025, Reid is the housing minister who had a nuclear-grade temper tantrum when he was asked how many houses Labour had built. Reid also cast doubt on the victims of Jeffrey Epstein to run cover for his mate, Peter Mandelson. In the clip above, Reid says, we kicked them out and they've been able to walk into the Green Party with no one checking their backgrounds. Now, a lot of those people are not only in the Green Party, they have been selected to stand as candidates in these local elections. Zach Polanski hasn't got a clue who they are because he didn't bother to do the work in advance. He's been very open with that in the public. When he says kick them out, the them in question are the people who Labour smeared as anti-Semites. As we've covered over and over, this smear had two purposes: to protect Israel's reputation, to keep the left out of power. The smear worked for a while, but then Israel committed a genocide and public opinion shifted. So that's the thing. These anti-Semitic smears are not going to work anymore because people know now. People know exactly what Israel are like. And people have changed their mind about Israel because they have seen a genocide right before their eyes. They've seen Israel bombing children, bombing ambulances, bombing hospitals, killing innocent people, killing civilians, many of them women and children. They've seen them bomb hospitals, and double tap them, going back and bombing them a second time. They know exactly what Israel are like now. So these anti-Semitic slurs against people who criticize Israel are not going to work. Now people have wised up to how the smear works and what purpose it serves. And it's a big reason why members and voters have left Labour in droves. Since Zach Polanski became leader, the Green Party have gone from having 65,000 members to 225,000 and counting. Does Reid really want to suggest so many potential voters are anti-Semites? It's worse than that too, because the Greens haven't just grown in membership, they've expanded their polling. So this is from Stats for Lefties. Reform lead by 5 points. Reform 24%, Conservative 19%, Green 18%, Labour 17%, Lib 13%, Res 4%, and your party 0%. Seats, Reform 282, Green 91, Conservative 83, Lib Dem 81, SNP 47, and Labour with only 34. So if this comes to pass, it's going to be a bloodbath for Labour. Labour finished, and that's what the new map will look like, according to this data. Labour done. Labour finished. The Greens aren't shy about criticising Israel, and voters know what they represent. In other words, when Reid accuses pro-Palestine activists of being anti-Semites, regular Green voters will think he's talking about me too, because they have the same opinion as the people who are out there marching against the genocide. Has any government ever shot itself in the foot as much as Starmer's? Oh, and talking about anti-Semitism, this is from Mish Rahman on X. He's at it again, using anti-Semitism to discredit Labour rivals when Steve Reid himself was the one who posted an anti-Semitic tweet. Labour frontbencher Steve Reid apologises unreservedly for Puppet Master tweet about Jewish Tory donor. Heavy vetting. Back to the clip, Reid continued. They don't have a vetting procedure that is up to scratch. They didn't bother to check these people's backgrounds, and they're now putting them up for election in a few weeks' time up and down the country, and the public have no idea that these people who think they are soft, fluffy Green Party supporters are actually racists and anti-Semites. Okay, so let's have a look at the sort of people who are drawn to Starmer's Labour. As we've reported extensively, there's an alarming common thread which connects these men. See if you can spot what it is. Yet another paedophile convicted from the Labour right production line. Labour MPs are talking mutiny over Starmer's ties to Mandelson. Starmer's other pedo problem, silence on links of new Zionist peer. Yet another figure charged with sexual offence. Liron Velleman pleads guilty, another Labour friend of Israel paedophile. Zionist former Labour MP Conor McGinn charged with sexual offence. Labour deselects 3 councillors for wanting inquiry into paedophile. LBC has pedo sting Labour freak on to discuss Burnham. Is Labour's vetting up to scratch, Steve? Did you check the background of all of these fucking paedophiles? Because we checked Mandelson's background and warned you he was a Ronin, and yet Keir Starmer made him ambassador to the US anyway. Unbelievable. And this is how people have responded. Richard Sanders, absolutely tone deaf. The Greens will be delighted to lean into this. Labour has no idea that not only does this nonsense not work anymore, post-genocide it positively angers people. James Foster, you have to laugh at the brass neck. Also, Zach Polanski is Jewish. Members voted for him decisively and overwhelmingly to lead the Green Party, and the Green Party membership numbers have rocketed because of him. Let's not talk of Labour's. Loser mentality. Much like Keir Starmer and his dodgy advisors, Reid is linked to the Labour Together group, which worked to prevent Labour winning in 2017 and 2019. In their words, they were rooting out anti-Semitism. In reality, they were purging activists who wanted a Labour Party that represented the UK Labour movement. People like Reid were happy to lose 2 elections to attack their enemies, and it looks like they're happy to lose in 2029 to do the same thing. Because make no mistake, this is a losing strategy from one of UK's foremost losers. And it gets worse. I wonder what possible vested interest Steve Reid could have in trying to smear Green Party members as anti-Semites. I wonder. Let's have a look, shall we? This is a list of all the MPs that have received donations from Israel lobbyists. And here we have Steve Reid, Croydon North, received £1,800. He received £1,000 of that money from Trevor Chin, a well-known Israel lobbyist. And this was reported by this declassifieduk.org. And by the way, the Green Party are projected to take Steve Reed's shit. And by the way, the Green Party are projected to take Steve Reed's seat in the next general election. This is from Stats for Lefties. GE 2029 forecast for Steve Reed's seat. Green 36%, Labour 28%. And you can see the bar chart here. Green gain from Labour. So let's hope that this comes to pass. I really, really hope that Steve Reed loses his seat, as this bar chart, as these statistics seem to indicate. He's a really horrible person. I really don't like him. I really, really hope that Steve Reed loses his seat in the next general election, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, let's move on. Excuse me. Hang on. Let's see if I can see if I can find this story. Hang on. What is it? Okay. This is really interesting. This is from Owen Jones' Battle Lines. At the Telegraph, support for Israel is now mandatory. The Daily Telegraph is being acquired by a German-based media giant, and now its journalists are formally expected to support Israel. The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has cleared the takeover by Alex Brinner SE. Its CEO, Matthias Dopfner, has written to Telegraph staff outlining his commitment to the paper. An employee at the Telegraph has sent me the letter. It is deeply revealing. Dopfner insists that the values of the Telegraph and the publishing house founded by late tycoon Alex Springer, dubbed Germany's Rupert Murdoch, are aligned. They are, he says, freedom, free markets, individual freedom, and freedom of speech. He goes further. Axel Springer, he explains, is guided by a clear editorial compass. Its employees are rooted in its essentials, core values to which we are firmly committed. There is, he adds, no such thing as neutral journalism, only journalism that is pluralistic and surprising, fair and fact-based. And yet, having invoked freedom of speech as a foundational principle, he insists these essentials are not partisan, but rather define a socio-political framework within which maximum journalistic freedom and intellectual independence can flourish. We support the right of Israel to exist. Dopner then sets out those essentials. 1. We stand for freedom, freedom of expression, the rule of law and democracy. 2. We support the right of Israel to exist and oppose all forms of anti-Semitism. 3. We advocate the transatlantic alliance between the United States and Europe. 4. We uphold the principles of a free market economy. 5. We reject political and religious extremism, as well as all forms of discrimination. Note, where we support the right of Israel to exist sits second. Freedom within limits. Dopner emphasizes the editorial independence will be protected, including from pressure by politicians, celebrities, or advertisers. I value debate in the spirit of pluralism and freedom of expression, he writes. But the description of essentials is frankly Orwellian. It is not reconcilable to argue that these tenets create the conditions for maximum journalistic freedom while simultaneously requiring adherence to a political position on a specific foreign state. Out of 193 UN member states, only one is singled out in this way. No state has a right to exist under international law. Peoples have a right to self-determination, a right denied in this case by Israel's illegal occupation of Palestinian land, and by subjecting its people to apartheid, colonialism, and genocide. A Telegraph journalist put it to me bluntly. To be firmly told by a new parent company to be's CEO that the second most important guiding principle is affirming the right of a country committing genocide and ethnic cleansing is more than a little concerning. It also raises the question of how any reporting from the paper can be considered factual if that is our core principle. Yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? How can the Telegraph, how can anything reported by the Telegraph concerning Israel be considered factual after this? I don't think it can, because they're obviously going to have a bias towards Israel, aren't they? They're going to have an Israel bias now. Everything they say is going to be in Israel's favor, and it's basically going to be a propaganda tool for Israel. If this goes ahead, which it seems likely it will. The Telegraph was, already has the nickname the Tory graph because it has a bias towards the Conservative Party and conservatism, more generally. But Now it seems to me like it's going to be just a propaganda tool for the state of Israel. So you can't trust a word that this newspaper says anymore. I mean, you couldn't before, but even less so now. This, it's utterly ridiculous. Excuse me. What Israel's right to exist means in practice. In practice, the phrase Israel's right to exist has been repeatedly deployed by Israel's cheerleaders across the West to justify Israel's crimes, from occupation and colonialism to apartheid, and now mass destruction in Gaza. It is also telling what is not said. The essentials do not prohibit racism in general. Despite later rejecting all forms of discrimination, there is no explicit rejection of Islamophobia, for example, or anti-Arab racism. Instead, oppose all forms of anti-Semitism is fused directly with support the right of Israel to exist. That conflation matters because we know that defenders of Israel have repeatedly blurred the line between anti-Semitism and opposition to the actions of the Israeli state. So how exactly might Axel Springer, SE, interpret oppose all forms of anti-Semitism? Yeah, that is a good question posed by Owen Jones. A very good question. Free Palestine is a pro-Hamas topic. There are very strong clues. Let's put it that way. The late Axel Springer himself declared, "It is the task of our generation to stand firmly by Israel's side, even if this causes difficulties for our policies elsewhere." He further added, "The country does not need encouragement, but advocacy, whether and wherever it can be provided in the European community, in the United Nations, in diplomatic relations, at work, in the family." He described this as a German duty. In June 2021, when employees complained about the Israeli flag being raised at company headquarters, Matthias Dopfner responded, "I think, and I'm being very frank with you, a person who has issue with an Israeli flag being raised for 1 week here after anti-Semitism demonstrations should look for a new job." He was referring to demonstrations against Israel's assault on Gaza that May. In October 2023, a Lebanese employee at Welt TV, part of the Axel Springer empire, was dismissed. He says it was after he challenged the outlet's pro-Israel positions. Axel Springer SE refused to comment on individual personal matters. In an internal email, which was leaked that year, Dopfner reportedly summarized his political worldview with the phrase Zionism über alles, Zionism above all. He has penned repeated pro-Israel polemics. Will we stand with Israel against the enemies of freedom despite the risks, or will we allow fear and opportunism to prevail? He wrote in October 2023, demanding massive, unsitting political, financial, and military support. On a podcast for his employees, Dopfner claimed a majority on Instagram, on other social media, and in particular TikTok, took sides for the Hamas actions. He argued that an almost global wave of anti-Semitism suddenly showed its ugly face, which he described as a shock despite knowing that it is here and there well hidden or presented in a politically correct manner as anti-Zionism or wokeism or whatever. And he said something deeply revealing about TikTok. Concretely, more than 4 million posts until today have been published under the hashtag of Free Palestine and other kind of pro-Hamas topics, and only 53,000 posts basically standing by Israel. Free Palestine, he argued, was a kind of pro-Hamas topic. Conflating anti-Semitism with critique of Israel. When Israel launched its first war on Iran last June, Dofner declared it was surprising that Israel is not being celebrated worldwide for its historic, extremely precise and necessary strike. Instead, he claimed, the public response is dominated by anti-Israel propaganda. The intelligence and precision of Israel's actions are not admired, but instead used here and there to perpetrate blatantly anti-Semitic stereotypes. This attitude is characterized not only by racist undertones, but also by a strange self-forgetfulness. In other words, he directly conflated critique of Israel's war with anti-Semitism. A few months ago, he quoted claims about atrocities committed on October the 7th, which included a first responder testified before the Knesset that he had seen the severed skulls of 3 children. The claim that Israeli children were beheaded have been comprehensively debunked. He went on to write that justified criticism of decisions made by an Israeli government is mixed with deep-rooted hatred of Jews, and that as a result, instead of an obvious global wave of compassion and solidarity, a global wave of cold-heartedness and increasingly aggressive anti-Semitism has emerged. The piece further criticized the German government, Israel's most loyal European defender, for massively restricting arms sales to Israel. Tellingly, he said that decision meant that from now on, unconditional support for Israel's right to exist is effectively subject to conditions. He described the recognition of Palestinian statehood as a reward for the barbarism of October the 7th. Late October, Al Jazeera published an investigation into German tabloid Bild. A cornerstone of Axel Springer SE headlined "The Story of Israel's Propaganda Machine, Specializing in Anti-Palestinian Incitement." Al Jazeera reported that the newspaper had suggested that a Palestinian journalist killed by Israel was a terrorist, denied famine in Gaza, and published a lengthy report it claimed had been found on the computer of late Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. It transpired that the document was old, not authored by Sinwar, and had reportedly been leaked by Benjamin Netanyahu's office. The newspaper reported Al Jazeera had also consistently demonized pro-Gaza demonstrators in Germany, labeling them as mobs, Israel haters, and anti-Semites. Bild has described student protesters in the US as Judenhasser Studenten, Jew hater students, even though they included Jewish students. What happened to Jewish critics of Israel in Germany? We should also note the atmosphere in Germany in which anti-Semitism is widely conflated with critique of Israel, to the extent that Jewish people there have been repeatedly denounced, deplatformed, and arrested. Axel Springer SE's outlets have repeatedly singled out Jewish critics of Israel. Die Welt newspaper argued that Jewish American photographer Nan Golding misused the opening of her retrospective at the New Nation Gallery to level serious accusations against Germany and Israel, supported by pro-Palestinian activists. Another article, attacked by Deborah Feldman, a Jewish American German writer who has spoken out about how the German government ignores the way dissenting Jews in Germany are being thrown under the same bus as they are in Israel. A piece in Bild said of her, her political views are close to conspiracy theories in Germany. One is not allowed to say what one wants. The police are infiltrated by right-wing extremists, and the Federal Republic is preventing peace in the Middle East, anti-Semitic subtext, because it obeys all-powerful Israel lobby. This is roughly the worldview of the author, who years ago also had a Netflix hit with her autobiographically inspired bestseller, Unorthodox. In other words, falsely suggesting a Jewish writer holds anti-Semitic views because of her opinions about Israel. I think I'm going to skip a bit and just get to the nub of the matter here. Owen Jones concludes this. What this means for the Telegraph. To be clear, the Telegraph has already had a partisan pro-Israel orientation, publishing multiple pieces justifying Israel's genocidal onslaught against Gaza. But this takeover embeds pro-Israel bias into the newspaper's very fabric. Its new owners are zealously pro-Israel and have repeatedly conflated anti-Semitism with critique of Israel. They claim that freedom of speech is a core value. The truth is that Israel supporters in the West have launched the biggest assault on free speech since the height of McCarthyism. We can see where the Telegraph's new owners stand on that. Worrying stuff. Yeah, this is worrying stuff. In my opinion, the Telegraph is going to become a tool of propaganda for Israel. But let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments. Okay, I think we can move on. Let's see. Where do we go from here? Let's have a look. Oh, yes. Okay, good. Live streaming, everyone. This next article is from the Morning Star. Labour facing its worst local election ever. Polls show Labour facing meltdown in May elections for devolved parliaments and local authorities, by Andrew Murray. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer departs 10 Downing Street, London, to attend Prime Minister's questions at the Houses of Parliament, April the 15th, 2026. Labour is facing a May meltdown in elections for devolved parliaments and local authorities, latest polling confirms. The party is on course for wipeout in Wales, a setback in Scotland, and evisceration across England, particularly in red wall districts in the Midlands and North. The Greens and hard right reform are set to be the beneficiaries in England, with nationalist parties winning in Scotland and Wales. If the results on May the 7th bear out these predictions, it will revive pressure on Labour MPs to act to end Sir Keir Starmer's disastrous leadership of their party and government. James Johnson of JL Partners, which conducted the detailed survey for The Telegraph, said the research pointed to a major political earthquake across Britain. It could be the worst local election ever for Labour in England, a collapse for the Conservatives in their historic Blue Wall heartlands, and a brutal third place for Starmer's party in Wales, he said. The figures point to a historic reverse for Labour in Wales. The survey estimates a win by Plaid Cymru, with 33 of the 96 seats in the Senate elected under a form of proportional representation. Reform would hold 29 seats, with Labour a distant third on 17, in a country where they have been the leading party in all elections for nearly a century. While the result might leave Labour able to join a coalition with Plaid, it would be the first time it has not led the Welsh government since devolution was introduced in 1999. In England, Labour looks set to lose control of half the 83 authorities it presently runs, out of the 136 which are holding full or partial elections. Many of those will be in London, which according to the JL poll remains a moderately bright spot for Keir Starmer. While previous surveys have estimated that Labour could remain in full control of just 2 of the 32 councils in the capital, the latest survey says they may lead in 19. Support for the Green Party is surging in London, but it may not be sufficient to secure Zach Polanski's party control of more than a handful of councils. On the right, Reform is set to make big gains from both Labour and the Tories, with Kemi Badenoch set to see her own blue wall in southern England crumble in favour of the Faragists. At the high end of the predictions, Reform could gain control of up to 69 councils, including Essex, where Miss Badenoch has her own parliamentary constituency, despite a faltering and frequently farcical record on running county councils, it secured last year. In Scotland, the poll has the Scottish National Party ahead in every region, with Reform and Labour vying for second place. A further poll of Ipsos showed that most of the public expect the Greens and Reform to make big gains in key elections, and 56% believe Labour will lose ground. The cost of living, the state of the NHS, and economic prospects will be the key issues affecting voting choices, although local issues also register strongly in the poll. Labour MPs speaking to the Star are generally resigned to calamity, although a few see some signs of resilience in the Labour vote in their own localities. The Iran war appears to have improved Sir Keir's prospects, at least to the extent that talk of an immediate challenge to his position is abating. But here's the thing. People have been praising Keir Starmer for his stance on the Iran war, for saying that he refuses to allow Britain to be dragged into this illegal war that America and Israel have started against Iran. But firstly, refusing to take part in an illegal war is just the bare minimum. Okay, and secondly, he is involved. He's still allowing America to use British air bases in this war. So to say that Britain is not involved in this war is just wrong. He's lying through his teeth. And thirdly, I think Keir Starmer, he's only doing this. He's only taking this stance in a vain hope to improve his polling in the run-up to these local elections in May. So don't be fooled. He's not doing this because he genuinely cares about the people of Iran. He's not doing this because he has principles. He's only doing this to save his own skin. But I think it's too little, too late anyway, because of all the genocide enabling. People don't like genocide enablers, funnily enough. And that's why many people have left the Labour Party to join the Green Party, because the Green Party have taken a stand against this genocide, and they've taken a firm stance against this illegal war against Iran as well. One leading left MP said they now expected the Premier to limp on until the autumn, by which time it is hoped the war may be over and Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham may have secured a return to the Commons, allowing him to challenge Sir Keir. However, if the forecast projected materialise on polling day, and particularly if the results in London are worse than presently anticipated, an earlier contest could still be precipitated by Health Secretary Wes Streeting, former Deputy Prime Minister Angie Rayner, or both. So I think this is going to be very interesting. May the 7th is going to be an interesting time. It's going to be an interesting set of local elections. And it could see Labour wiped out. This could be a bloodbath for Labour, basically. But time will tell. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay. Okay, what's next? Okay. Moving on. This is a story from the Mirror. Exclusive. Reform activist visited by Farage wrote vile Hitler posts, so we confronted him. The Mirror exposes Aaron Taylor's sickening social media posts, and this is what he had to say for himself. This is a story by Simon Murphy, senior news reporter from the Mirror. A Reform local elections campaigner whose tanning salon was visited by Nigel Farage praised Adolf Hitler, we can reveal. Aaron Taylor, who was planning to be a candidate and served as a branch treasurer, shared a tribute to the Nazi dictator. The 33-year-old, also pictured with Reform's Robert Jenrick, even wrote Heil Hitler online and denied the Holocaust. Taylor, who has been enthusiastically campaigning in recent weeks, posted images in January showing the party's leader visiting his son's spa salon in Essex. Only months earlier, he shared a picture of Hitler online, emblazoned with the message, "I gave it my all, now it's time for you to give it your all." The thing is, this is part of a pattern. If you've been following my videos, you would have noticed that this isn't the first time a Reform candidate has been caught out for being a racist or a Nazi. It keeps happening again and again. It's part of a pattern. And on some of the videos that I've made calling out these people have commented, well, it's only one person, or it was only a joke, or they said they apologized and they deleted the tweet, so what's the problem? Well, if it was just one person, then perhaps I could overlook it, but perhaps I wouldn't even bother making a video on it at all. But it's not just one person. There have been several people now. It's part of a pattern. It's part of an ongoing pattern that we see time and time again. There have been several candidates for Reform who have been caught being racist or out and out Nazis. So yeah, this person, Aaron Taylor, is just the next in a long line of reform candidates who turn out to be racists, who turn out to be Nazis. That's why I share these news articles about them, because it's a pattern. It's an ongoing pattern going on here. The now deleted tweet in late October was posted in response to an ex-user who complained about their feed being anti-Jews and anti-Israel. And in another tweet the same month, Taylor wrote, "The greatest deception of all time is that the Nazis were..." Sorry, I'll start that again. The now deleted tweet in late October was posted in response to an ex-user who complained about their feed being anti-Jews and anti-Israel. And in another tweet the same month, Taylor wrote, "The greatest deception of all time is that Nazis were evil and the Holocaust was real, it would seem." The posts were uncovered by anti-racism campaign group Hope Not Hate. There's a photo there of Aaron Taylor shaking hands with Nigel Farage when he visited his salon. Today, we confronted Taylor at his salon in Jaywick in Farage's Clacton constituency, where he said sorry. Taylor, who explained he had been removed from the party, said, "I genuinely apologise." He added, "I got pulled up on it. I don't remember posting these things. It's likely I've had a beer, said stupid things." It comes as reform has been riding high in the polls, with Farage seeking to use May the 7th ballot as a referendum on PM Keir Starmer's popularity. Hope Not Hate's Director of Research, Joe Mulhall, said, "We've become used to finding extreme and unacceptable reform activists, but to see such open support for Hitler and brazen Holocaust denial from a reform campaigner is still shocking. The party has no option but to expel people like Taylor, but the question remains, why someone so extreme feels that reform is the party for them?" That is a very good question. That is a very good question. It seems to me that although not every reform supporter is a Nazi, most Nazis are reform supporters, or at the very least, racists. And there's a screenshot of Aaron Taylor's tweet. Taylor, who calls Farage the big boss, is an avid campaigner on X, billing himself as a proud member and volunteer for reform. In a video pinned to the top of his profile, he stands outside Parliament donning a tie, boasting about volunteering at the party's HQ. "I can't wait for the local elections on May the 7th, he tells viewers, before pointing his finger to the camera as he adds, "Let's get on with it." But this polished image is a far cry from the extreme posts he shared. Until last month, Taylor's Twitter account went under the name @thejackal123 before being changed to Aaron Essex Tay. In now deleted posts, Taylor repeatedly demonstrated his support for Hitler. On October the 25th, he wrote, "Listen to the translations of Adolf Hitler compare to the world we live in now currently. The winners of the war lied about how evil Hitler was, it would seem. Interesting." And in an apparent reference to the Führer the same day, he wrote, "The Austrian painter was right." Responding to another account's suggestion that people dress up in Nazi costumes for Halloween and troll our government, Taylor wrote the next day, "Heil Hitler." On November the 1st, he continued a sickening racist rant. Meanwhile, in a post which was still available on his account today, Taylor shared a white pride video featuring Hitler's propaganda chief, Joseph Goebbels. Taylor reposted the white pride video, an accompanying tweet from October which said, "You're blessed to be white, be proud of it." As recently as March the 10th, Taylor crowed about being at the Reform's headquarters. That day, he posted a picture smiling with Treasury spokesman Jenrick, who defected from the Tories earlier this year. And in February, he shared a picture shaking hands with Reform's Home Affairs spokesman Zia Youssef. Taylor's ex-profile previously said he was treasurer for Harwich and North Essex's Reform UK branch. He is director of Sun Spa 11 Limited. Last week, the firm was offering customers a cash-only Fiver Friday deal of 10 minutes of tanning for £5. In January, Taylor shared images of Farage visiting the salon. Asked about his campaigning for reform, Taylor said, "I've been removed." He confirmed he had been treasurer for the party's Harwich branch, but stopped doing the role about a month ago, adding, "They disagreed with something I said a year before I was a member." Asked about why he tweeted in support of Hitler, Taylor said, laughing, "I don't remember doing it, to be honest." Yeah, right, sure. Pull the other one. Questioned on whether he was asked to be a candidate, he said he was asked to be a treasurer as well as a candidate. Taylor said he cancelled his membership, claiming he had not been expelled. He confirmed he visited Reform HQ last month, adding, "A day or two after that, I got pulled up for comments. Asked if they were the Hitler comments, he replied, probably, represented him with a dossier of Hope Not Hate's evidence showing his tweets, including claiming the winners of the war lied about how evil Hitler was." He said he did not stand by the comment, pointed out that he posted a vile racist tweet, and asked why. He said, "I don't remember doing that, to be honest. I don't believe that." Reform said, Mr. Taylor is not a member of Reform UK and was rejected as a candidate for the party. A source said Taylor applied to be a candidate but failed vetting, and that he served as an interim branch treasurer for 6 weeks. Yeah, it does seem to be a pattern, doesn't it? That Reform supporters are either racists or just full-on fascists and Nazis. It's, you know, there's a pattern emerging here. And I think it would be a disaster. I really do think it will be a disaster for this country if reform get anywhere near the levers of power. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let's see what next. This next story is actually quite serious. This next story is from The Independent by Dan Haygarth. I'll believe it when I see it. People on street that won Farage's energy bills competition say reform hasn't paid. Some residents who live on the street that won Nigel Farage's controversial energy bills competition have said that they have not been given their prize. Reform said they would cover the energy bills from the winning home and every address on the street for a year. June from Wigan was announced as the winner earlier this month. In a video posted on social media, Mr. Farage could be seen handing over flowers to June and her husband in their foyer as the party's Treasury spokesman Robert Jenrick held a giant cheque. The win faced scrutiny when social media users claimed Mr. Farage already knew the winners, as a picture appearing to show him standing behind the couple at a 2019 Brexit Party event resurfaced. Wigan's local Reform UK branch also posted the news on Facebook later, congratulating the pair of staunch branch members on their win. It is understood that the party followed the legal requirements of the competition with a draw that picked June as the winner at random. And there's the photo of Farage handing the flowers to the winner there. Now, some people who live on St. Marlow Road in the Greater Manchester town have said they have been excluded from the prize, despite Reform saying it would pay for the energy bills for every home on the street. The Telegraph has reported that only the homes in the same half of the street, which is divided by St. Albans Road, as the winners that received a letter which instructed them how to put in a claim to Reform. Reform says they were not able to deliver all of the letters on the day of their visit, but they are now incoming. Angie Eccleston, 48, told the Telegraph that her sister ran her to congratulate her on the winnings, but she has not received them. I thought to myself, I'll believe it when I see it, but I didn't realize I had been excluded and that my neighbours had all received a letter and instructions, Miss Eccleston said. Nigel Farage said the whole street would be included, but we haven't heard anything. I am in shock. I am the first house of St. Marlow Road. Is the whole street or not the street? I am mortified. Similarly, IT worker Matt Johnston, 53, learnt about the prize draw win when his sister got in touch with him. We thought we would hear something from Reform by email or post, but at the moment we haven't heard anything, he said. I mean, if Reform said at the time it would be the whole street, then we feel like we should be included in that. Our energy bills keep going up and down, but are around 3,500 a year. Having them paid for would make a huge difference. Fraser Hayes, 63, also said he has not received the winnings, but would give them away if he does get them, and as he is no fan of the insurgents' right-wing party. I have no qualms about depriving Reform of the money and giving to a local kids charity, or maybe even the Labour candidate, he told the Telegraph. The stunt is appalling. It's obviously a data grab. They're trying to get loads of people to write in, and they ask, who did you vote for last time? Who will you vote for this time? I am absolutely not a Reform fan, and I am appalled that anyone is. When announced, the competition sparked calls for the information watchdog to investigate. After competitors were asked questions, included who they voted for at the last general election and who they plan to back at the next. Reform UK said it had been cleared by the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO. A Reform UK spokesman told The Independent, "We posted letters physically through some of the doors on the day, but weren't able to deliver to all the addresses on the day. Letters are incoming for the remaining households. We always intended to pay for the whole road as promised and will do so." Yeah, right. I'll believe it when it actually happens. This needs to be investigated. This needs to be thoroughly investigated. This is dodgy as fuck. There's something really dodgy going on here. And it's clearly a data grab. It's clearly a data grab. There's no doubt about it in my mind. It's just a data grab, plain and simple. And I'm not even certain that this competition was legal. I'm sure they broke an electoral law doing this. I'm sure this is treating. Treating is a corrupt practice under the Representation of the People Act 1983, where a person corruptly provides food, drink, entertainment, or provisions before, during, or after an election to influence voting. It requires intent to corruptly influence a voter or reward them for voting. That's from legislation.gov.uk. So yeah, I think this is so yeah, this is clearly treating, in my opinion, and should be fully investigated. It should be fully looked into. This whole thing is just really dodgy. Really, really dodgy. It stinks. It really stinks. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay. Okay, just a couple more stories and then I'll call it a night, I think. This is absolutely hilarious. Matt Goodwin posted on X, "Hey, Waterstones, where's Suicide of a Nation? How weird." Sorry, I'll start that again. This is absolutely hilarious. Matt Goodwin posted on X, "Hey, Waterstones, where's Suicide of a Nation? Weird how the #1 paperback in Britain never happens to be on display." And as you can see, he's been community noted. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Waterstones requires self-published books to have a distributor agreement to be stocked. This book does not and is unavailable there. The photo shows new hardbacks display, not paperbacks. And the replies are just brilliant. Reform Party Watch said this, "It's a self-published book, you utter imbecile. Did you approach Waterstones for distribution since you know you don't have a distributor?" Dylan Smith posted this, "Perhaps Waterstones would have put this on display instead." Suicide of a career. That's hilarious. Asian Mom Riot posted, Can someone remind Matt it's being pulped? Hilarious. Sully Tech posted, it's as if you, a man who has had a number of books published, would understand the difference between a self-published book and negotiating a deal with Waterstones as a distributor and publishing house that already has such things in place. But for some reason, you've made this bullshit performative post complaining about an invented grievance instead. What a fucking tool. Mark Davis posted this meme. Wittering shites. That's hilarious. Bridge Books, Dromore Codown posted this. Those are hardbacks you'll stand beside, sweetie. I keep the paperbacks with the paperbacks. Not that I'd stock yours. Montegrill no flags the Irish fella. Junior Hartley knows. Do you have a copy of Suicide, A Nation by ChatGPT? Tony posted, the half price stand is behind you. Speak Out Sister posted, you should have a word with your publisher. They're meant to promote it. Alex Hibbert, your wholesaler setup hasn't been done properly. You are listed at Gardeners as firm sale only. Retailers won't stock books that aren't sell or return. Also, direct sales via events or personal websites aren't usually counted by Nelson's. Good point. Verduz Boawana posted, because it's not #1 paperback in Britain. It's an obscure, AI-written, non-peer-reviewed, self-serving nationalist pamphlet. Oh dear. Sir Dave King posted this. I picked up my copy there, okay? Matt GPT, racist lies and AI slop. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Bad News 2. They don't stock it because of the decision you made, but you already know this, you attention-seeking dork. Yes, Matt Goodwin's book, Suicide of a Nation, Immigration, Islam, Identity, is self-published or published through a small independent setup under the imprint North Star. Goodwin has openly explained that he chose this route deliberately because mainstream publishers would not have accepted a book with its content and perspective. Yes, exactly, exactly. Dr. Mariana Claire Mironovich said, why would you be looking for a paperback on a hardcover display, Matt GPT? No one posted, you keep going on about your shit book, Matt. Give your arse a chance, mate. Hashtag twat GPT. Shawnee Cooper posted, maybe go to the paperback section. Whilst you're at it, maybe stop and think about this. It won't be there as they don't display AI-generated books. Hilarious. And so it goes on. There are more and more posts similar to the ones I've read. It just goes on and on. He basically got owned to the next century. Absolutely hilarious. Brilliant stuff. You love to see it. Brilliant. Absolutely hilarious. And in a similar vein, Richard Tice also got owned into the next century when he posted, "Reform will require schools to fly a Union flag and display a picture of the King. Common sense patriotism." Oh my God. Jimmy the Giant posted, "Ha ha ha, you lot aren't serious people." Red John Socialist posted, "Noticed how these stupid, racist fucking cunts never mention poverty?" Chrissy Gresh posted, "If we wanted this kind of lifestyle and politics, we'd move to North fucking Korea, asshole. Just fuck off. Oh, and pay your taxes." Katie's Voice posted, "No, it's just flag wanking, right-wing nationalism." Jen Wood posted, "Hungry people can't eat flags. And will the pictures have the nearest food bank phone numbers on them? To be a patriot, you have to have your priorities in the right order. You are not patriot, and your priorities are skewed. I doubt if you even know what true patriotism means." Yeah, well said. Not the Tory graph, hashtag save our NHS, responded with flag shaggers, faux patriotism. The Purple Pimpernel posted pointless posturing for tiny-minded men with very small penises. Sharon posted, "I know what you can do with your flag." Hilarious stuff. Gracie Samuels posted, "Those voting for reform need to think extremely carefully about how a reform government will affect them and their families. Reform has already admitted they intend to get rid of workers' rights. Reform has already said they will reduce the national minimum wage for younger workers." Excuse me. Actually, I'll leave that one. It goes on for quite long. It's quite long. Rio Rita said this, "Why should millionaires think it's okay to dodge paying tax? Tice must resign." Catman FBPE said, "So, you think it's common sense patriotism to force the Welsh to fly a flag they're not represented on despite Dick the tax avoider?" Hang on. Capman, FBPE, said, so you think it is common sense patriotism to force the Welsh to fly a flag they are not represented on? Desperate Dick the tax avoider. Gracie Samuels said, hang on, we've had that one. Jim Nelson 2.0, what a shit idea. Is facing multiple allegations of dodging tax, common sense patriotism? Didn't your dense girlfriend move to Dubai to escape paying VAT on private school fees? Such patriotism, Dick. Resign. That picture's hilarious. Based Cow posted a photo of the king with the caption, "Me brothers are nonce." Oh dear. Spinner said, will they also make everyone pay their fair share of taxes? Asking for a friend. Reformed gladiator, Taxus Dodgus. Brilliant. Why Truth Matters said, another reason not to vote for this fuckwit party. Also, Tice, pay your fucking taxes. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Richard Tice being owned into the next century. You love to see it. Fantastic. So, and I think, and that's it for tonight. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. And if you're new, do subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Okay, bye for now.